It's a bit of a rainy day today, so I wanted to do a remote cemetery tour. I'm not going to make a habit of this, but I did pass by the final resting place of President Jeffrey R. Holland about halfway through January on my way back from Las Vegas with my brother and my mom. We stopped by and checked out the headstone. It's a large headstone. It's kind of in the south central location of the St. George City Cemetery, which is only a few blocks away from the St. George Tabernacle and the St. George Temple. Beautiful headstone, really stands out in the cemetery. But I wanted to do a little bit of a tour showing you where that's located, and I'll do so on this one with the help of Google Earth. But at the end of December 27th, 2025, President Jeffrey R. Holland passed away from complications due to kidney disease. He was president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles at that point. He gave several great talks during his service in the church, put out several great books. This is probably my favorite, however long and hard the road. This is kind of a compilation of different talks that he gave with also some additional stuff added to it. He left 13 grandchildren, 3 children, and 6 great-grandchildren. His funeral was held in the Tabernacle on December 31st, 2025, and the next day on January 1st, 2026, in a rainy St. George. The funeral procession came down from Salt Lake City and passed by the St. George Temple, and then they ended up at the cemetery itself. President Dallin H. Oaks was present, which was fitting for several reasons. He was president of the church, the prophet, and Jeffrey R. Holland was president of the Quorum of the 12, but also Dallin H. Oaks served as president of Brigham Young University pretty much all throughout the decade of the 70s. And then starting in 1980, Jeffrey R. Holland became president of Brigham Young University and was president of BYU until 1989. I appreciated a lot about him. He was known for being a great speaker. He was called to be an apostle in June of 1984, which was just a few weeks after Ezra Taft Benson passed away, the president of the church at that point. Then Howard W. Hunter became president of the church, and in order to fill the seat in the Quorum of the 12, the left open spot, Jeffrey R. Holland became an apostle. And then Henry B. Eyring would be called to be an apostle the following year when Howard W. Hunter passed away. Eyring still being alive, obviously. But when Holland was still alive, he was the official president of the Quorum of the 12 because he did have seniority, being called the year before Eyring to be an apostle. I wanted to read a few quotes that are probably some of my favorites. It's really difficult to pick a favorite Jeffrey R. Holland quote, but 3 of them that kind of stood out are, don't give up, don't you quit, you keep walking, you keep trying. There is help and happiness ahead. You keep your chin up. It will be all right in the end. Trust God and believe in good things to come. Another one is, it is not possible for you to sink lower than the infinite light of Christ's atonement shines. And typically, like I said, I wouldn't do this tour without actually taking you to the spot, but I did take video when we passed through the cemetery to visit his headstone in January. And I'll post that video in the final edit to this so you can kind of get a good context of where it's located. So if you find the cemetery that's located in St. George at 650 East Tabernacle Road, there are 2 major roadways that intersect through the main portion of the cemetery. There's a small strip on the east side of the cemetery. He is not in that section, but there are 2 main roads that intersect the other section, and the southerly road, the one at the south. He's about halfway down. If you're looking east to west, he's about halfway down that road, is where his headstone is located. His wife, Patricia Holland, passed away in 2023. They also celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary in 2023. The cool thing about him being buried in St. George is, one might expect that the president of the Quorum of the 12 might very well be buried in the Salt Lake City Cemetery, but he grew up in St. George, just a few blocks from where that cemetery is located. So I think it's kind of fitting and very, very cool that he's actually buried down there. So I urge you, if you have time, if you're ever in St. George, go pay your respects to Elder Jeffrey R. Holland and his wife, Patricia. Great people. He was known for giving a lot of good talks, just had a lot of health issues toward the end of his life with kidney disease and so forth. And then he passed away at the end of 2025. The now president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles is Dieter Uchtdorf, who is essentially third in line to be president of the church. You've got Dallin H. Oaks that would be first in line, and then you've got Henry B. Eyring, which would have second in line with seniority, and then you've got Dieter Uchtdorf, who is actually the acting president of the Quorum of the 12. Henry B. Eyring is the president of the Quorum of the 12. But I just wanted to share this with you. Some of these photos that were taken at the funeral, many of you probably had this. In December, there was like this really weird flu/cold going around. And I caught that for like 2.5, 3 weeks. And my friend Paul ended up going to the funeral in the tabernacle and took some great photos and video. And he's allowed me to use those in this video to show you kind of what the funeral looked like and the funeral program. So I appreciate it. This is the final resting place of President Jeffrey R. Holland. Thank you and have a great day. Thanks for watching Cemetery Chad. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Most of my videos are going to be on location, primarily at the Salt Lake City Cemetery, but kind of all over, talking about notable figures, both in church leadership, history, Western history, Utah history, and so forth. And so I hope that you follow and share and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.